All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce and the Fargo Downtown Community Partnerships 2022 Fargo Mayoral Forum. My name is Shannon Full, and I serve as the president and CEO of the Fargo-Moorhead West Fargo Chamber of Commerce, and am joined today by Cindy Graffio, the executive director of the Downtown Community Partnership.
First, on behalf of our organizations and the members that we serve, I would like to thank all of the candidates for their willingness to join us this afternoon. The Downtown Community Partnership is proud of the partnership with the Chamber and our ability to provide voters an opportunity to learn about the candidates, their positions, and the possibilities they see for downtown and our city as a whole.
So as we get started, I'd like to note that neither the Chamber nor DCP endorses candidates formally for elected office. We simply provide educational opportunities like the one you're experiencing today for our members and the community. Now let's jump into the outline for this afternoon's event.
Each candidate will be allotted 2 minutes for opening remarks and 1 minute for closing remarks. During the question and answer section, candidates will be allotted 60 seconds to respond to the question. There is a timer located on the wall over there. And then upon each response, we will proceed down the line in the order that the candidates are sitting and rotate answers as to who answers first. The candidates have been provided with a brief overview of the topics being discussed this evening, but have not been provided the questions.
If those in the audience have a question for our mayoral candidates, you may send them directly to Cindy and I via our online QA platform, chamberquestions.com. We ask that all questions and responses to be respectful and germane. Let's start off by having Arlette Preston kick off the 2-minute opening remarks. Arlette?
Thank you, Shannon and Cindy. Good afternoon. My name is Arlette Preston. And like so many people that came to Fargo, I came here to go to college. Excuse me. I attended St. Luke's School of Nursing and then went back for a bachelor's degree at MSUM. And following that, I went to Texas Women's University for a graduate degree in community health nursing. After working at AmeriCare, which is now Sanford, for about 21 years, I left to start a business of my own. I owned and operated an in-home service for the elderly for 16 years. During that time, I managed up to 100 staff and managed the budgets that go along with that. I served also on the Fargo City Commission back in 92 to 2000. And then I was on the school board for 4 years, and then finally, more recently, was reelected to the City Commission in 2020, which I currently serve on. And I have the Health Department and Planning Development Departments in my portfolio. My vision for Fargo is actually quite simple. It's that we're a community of neighbors, where we know our neighbors and look out for each other, where parents feel safe in raising their children, where Fargoans can find meaningful career and build a solid future, where anyone and everyone who chooses to live here feels welcome here. As we continue to grow, which we have, we do not need to lose that small town feel, and we can still continue to grow opportunities, which will provide opportunities for everyone. I am committed to that goal. I appreciate the opportunity to share more about my platform and issues as the afternoon proceeds, so thank you.
Thank you.
Michael Borghi.
All right, good afternoon. And again, thank you to the Chamber and the Downtown Community Partnership. My name is Michael Borghi, and I live in the Prairiewood neighborhood with my wife of 21 years, Kathy Borghi. I've been in the hospitality industry for 45 plus years and worked in various parts of the country, from the East Coast to the South, and even up in Canada for approximately 6 years. I've lived in the Fargo-Moorhead area two different stints, once in the 90s, right after the flood in 97, and then again, I moved back here in 2016, once my employment was complete in Canada. What I've noticed living here in Fargo, it's a very giving community. I mean, I love Fargo. It's an area that I've chose to as we say, settle down or retire. I guess I'm getting close to that age. Also, I've noticed living here that it's changed a bit than what it used to be when I first lived here the very first time. I've noticed an actual very large change. Like I said before, I've lived in many different areas around the country, and I've seen change. And the change that we're going through currently, I think, is the wrong direction. And what I can bring as the mayor is a good management background and put us back on track to the right way of living in the Fargo-Moorhead area. And again, I thank you very much for the opportunity for you to learn who I am and what I'm about. Thank you.
Wonderful. Dr. Tim Mahoney.
Good evening. Thank you to the Chamber and the Downtown Community Partnerships. It's great to get the people out in front of us and finally have a debate about the merits of being mayor of the city. I think the city's doing great. We're a top economic center for a variety of areas in the community. Three-state area where the hottest market there is for a job. We've had 20% growth in the last 10 years. When I've been on the commission, I've been able to reduce taxes by 10%. We've dropped the mill levy from 59 1/4 down to 53, and we continue to look for ways to save our citizens money. But if you save money, you also figure out ways of getting more money. So we went to the water and started to share it with West Fargo. That brought the city of Fargo $4 million worth of revenue. That's helpful for us to cover our bills. We looked at wastewater. We took West Fargo's as well as a variety of other communities in the community and are able to take wastewater and again make revenue. I'm constantly looking for ways with a balanced budget to find different ways to have us have revenues so our taxpayers will have to pay less. And guess what? We've had tremendous growth because when we've had the growth, what happens is more of the commercial pays the freight versus the residential. We've flipped that. It used to be 48% residential or 48% commercial. Now it's 52% commercial and 48% residential. So the residents are paying less, and we'll continue to look at that. With our department heads, I look at them all the time looking for different ways to be more efficient, more cost efficient, use our employees the best way we can. And you'll find that in our budget, we continually keep it as thin as we can, yet get the great services that you have. When we look at the needs and wants of the elderly population versus the young people, it's almost the same. They want a safe place to live, a place that is affordable. We'd love to have our children grow up here and raise their families here as well. So we want a community that's the envy of everybody else in the area, and that's indeed what we have. When you ask about how our city is run, when we're nationally ranked, we're the #1 Midwest city as far as how we run financial. So we run our finances right. I'd appreciate your vote in this next election. Thank you.
Hakun Dabar.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you to the Chamber and DCP for hosting this event tonight. My name is Hakun Dabar, and I'm running for Mayor of Fargo. I believe in the bright future of Fargo. Since moving to Fargo, I started a successful nonprofit and business. And in those roles, I've learned that the current administration has left our hardworking families and businesses with a great burden. Mr. Mahoney, politics is not about power. Representative Shannon Rose, politics is not about money. And politics is not about winning for the sake of winning. Politics is about improvement of people's lives. And that's why I'm running. First, we need to end special assessment. Today, we see hardworking families and businesses struggling with debt as large as second mortgage. This is why I will end special assessment as mayor. Second, we need to implement housing first policy. The Republican of the state of Utah found that it saves money and it saves lives. Finally, we know that Fargo has serious workforce shortage. This is why I will create a workforce department to partner with the chamber to prepare workers for the good jobs in Fargo and to help employers attract and retain good employees. Politics is about improving people's lives. I believe in the bright future of Fargo. That is why, as mayor, I will end special assessment, implement a housing first policy, and solve the workforce shortage by creating a workforce department. Let's create a bright future for Fargo together. Thanks.
Great. And Ms. Shannon Rose-Jones.
Thank you, Shannon and Cindy and the Chamber and the Downtown Community Partnership for giving us this opportunity to speak to the voters. My name is Shannon Rose-Jones. I was born and raised in the city of Fargo here and have lived here almost my entire life. I have the great privilege of working for my family's business, working with my family members as an attorney and a real estate broker. I moved back to Fargo in 2007, specifically for the opportunity to raise my girls here in Fargo. I'm running for mayor to really bring a fresh perspective to the city of Fargo. I want to use the experience that I have as a business owner and a legislator to really work to improve the opportunities that we have in Fargo, make sure that we're running our city like we would run our business in an efficient way, always looking for improvements, always looking for ways to do things better and less expensive. One of my top priorities is going to be making sure that we are funding our law enforcement and our first responders. Safety is key to our success here in Fargo, and we need to make sure that we are providing all of the resources and the support that our first responders need to do their jobs safely and feel valued in the work that they're providing. It's key also for us to continue to attract people to Fargo, that we make sure that we hold the line on property taxes and special assessments. While mill levies have been going down in the city of Fargo, assessed values have been going up, and I don't know about you, but my property taxes go up year after year. We need to make sure that we're working with our partners to look for increased efficiencies and building relationships or working with relationships across the state to make sure that we can keep our assessed values as low as possible and not continue to increase them year after year. The last thing is our government doesn't need more money. We need better ideas. We need to make sure that we are holding our government accountable, looking for efficiencies and better ways to do things every day. Those would be my key priorities. Thank you.
Thank you, all candidates, for those thoughtful opening remarks. It's now time to begin with our questions for this afternoon, starting off with candidate Michael Borghi. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. Workforce is the #1 issue we hear of from our business community. Solving the workforce issue is going to take a collective approach. What role do you believe the city of Fargo should play as our community works to develop and deploy solutions? Michael Borghi?
Well, like the workforce, in my line of work anyways, we're having a real challenge trying to find people to fill those positions. But what we need to do is we need to look at helping young people go to trade schools, become plumbers, carpenters, welders. And somehow if we can come up with a way to finance that for them and go into partnership with those young people so they have to spend so much time here in Fargo working under those trades, and we would help them to gather that knowledge and that trade and going forward. That way both us and the actual individual benefits. They do those types of things in Canada quite often, and it seems to work up there. One of the things that I've noticed from a few of the places that I've lived and worked. Thank you.
Dr. Mahoney?
Workforce has been part of a problem throughout our city for many, many years now. Comes up as a chamber issue #1. We've been working with the chamber to try to look at this problem and see what we can do different. The Workforce Academy was one of the funding projects that we did with the city of Fargo and with a variety of other partners to help us with the city and find some workforce in a Workforce Academy that's shared with the school systems as well. Ignite is one of the programs that the chamber has come up with, which tries to match a worker with a job. So if they don't have the qualifications for the job, they have a path forward to try to find that job. We did the remarkable thing of a coding school, and in our coding school, what happened is we were able to take young men and were good in computers, men and women, and they would learn a skill set that would double their salary, and that has been very successful. Now, you asked me about CDLs the other day when we had a discussion about that, and interestingly enough, we have 12 positions open in the city of Fargo. We now have a program where we will teach them and train them and get them through that program so we have more drivers throughout our city. There's many other ideas we have, but I'll let it go for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Hakun Dabar.
Workforce issue is a thing that I've been working the last 8 years, putting people to work, get good paying jobs, especially our vulnerable population here, and make sure that they integrate our community fully. And so that's the work that I've been doing. And I've been reached out to the mayor several times about that. We need to have discussion about workforce. You need to connect us with employers, bring them on the table, which was not happening. And if you look at my platform, is I'll be creating the first workforce department at the city level that's going to work with the chamber. Chamber knows about all the employers that have the workforce shortage, and the city needs to have a leadership there, connect the workers and the employers together. And also, most of the time when you talk to employers, they say they don't have work experience, they don't have training, and that is where city needs to intervene and bring those, send them to NDSES, get the short skills training, and prepare the folks who are here already. So, thank you.
Thank you. Shannon Rose Jones.
Thank you, Cindy. Just like all of you who work in businesses and run businesses, our family business deals with these workforce issues every day. I'm excited to bring private sector experience that I have and combine it with our public sector resources so that we can make sure that we're always looking for new and innovative ways. It was mentioned some of the opportunities to partner with private individuals to make sure that we're bringing people to the community, looking for opportunities to train the people that we have. We've seen challenges on the front here at the city with our police department and other workforce needs within the city. I think we need to make sure that we're looking at empowering the people who work in the city, empowering the people who work here to do their jobs and feel like their work is being valued rather than micromanaging them. I'm excited to lean on my experience as a leader in our business and create those relationships, create those partnerships to bring workforce to the community.
Thank you, Shannon. Arlette Preston.
The background for, or probably the secret for retaining and recruiting a workforce is a lot of that is affordable housing that is attainable at all different income levels. So housing is a major piece of making sure our workforce is adequate. Second is childcare. Childcare is an issue that I've been working on, and I think everyone that has had children recognize how expensive childcare can be and how challenging it is to find it. That's another issue that the city can come to the table perhaps and help, especially with what I have been working on is trying to bring down some of the barriers for actually starting a childcare center with the hope that we will have more of them. Safe environment. So law enforcement is terrifically important in maintaining a safe environment in our city as well.
So Arlette may have had the cliff notes because you may have to just elaborate more as we go into this question. But the workforce issue has become more than being just about jobs. It's now about housing, childcare, community amenities, arts and culture, and so much more. As mayor, which of these issues would you aim to impact and how? Let's begin with Dr. Mahoney.
You have to make it an attractive city that people want to live in. Whether you're old or young, you like to have a safe community to raise your children, be in the community, go out and about and do a variety of different things. Your parks have to match that. You have to have a school system that's excellent. And what happens in our community, we have many of those factors that make people look at this as an attractive community to come into. It's not just one piece of the puzzle, it's all the pieces of the puzzle that have to go together to make it a community that people strive and want to come into because they feel this is the place I want to settle down. My greatest ambassadors in the city of Fargo are the people that live here. Oftentimes I'll recruit somebody into the community and they'll go to a coffee shop and somebody will sit down and start telling them how great Fargo is. Half the time you don't have to sell the community because people realize that. But if you're a great community, you have to sustain that as well. You have to look at ways in which you can sustain a community which attracts people and has growth that is sustainable and long-term. That is a challenge we'll have as we go forward. We're looking south now in our planning and what we're going to do, and we're going to see some great things come in our new neighborhoods. Thank you.
Wonderful. Hakun.
I think the work I've been doing for the last 8 years was making sure that anybody who's looking for jobs. So we have an assessment called Strengths and Barriers from transportation, childcare, housing, healthcare. So we try to remove 1 or 2 barriers from their list to make sure that they integrate the community well. So that's what I was been doing. And that's why when I create a workforce department at the City Hall to make sure that we connect employers and the job seekers. And because there's so many people who are looking for jobs every day and can't get it, can't find it. And then employers are looking for workers as well. So there's no connection on that sector. And if you look at everyone sitting here, about the platform, number one issue is not workforce, and that is the number one issue in Fargo. And that's why I'm here sitting, experience, work on this field, and making sure that our folks in our community make the city more affordable for them, get good paying jobs, and also become, one of the individuals contributing to our economy.
Great. Go ahead.
Ready? Okay. In any business and any household budget, it's always about balancing our needs and our wants. So we can want all of these things, and we do, but it's a matter of also prioritizing what are the things that we can afford, because if we try and do all of these things as the city, we're going to continue to raise taxes higher and higher and make it less affordable to actually live in the city. So all of these things, childcare, workforce, housing, the city needs to make sure that they're leveraging their relationships, their partnerships with people who are already doing these things and trying to figure out how we can make it easier for them to do the things that they're doing, providing childcare, building affordable housing. How can we do that? We can do that by reducing the regulatory burdens, barriers to entry, and strategically using our tax incentives so that businesses are more inclined to build entry-level housing rather than the higher price, where they have a higher price margin. We could use our incentives that way. There's a lot of opportunity that we have.
Ms. Preston?
So to just elaborate a little bit more, a housing study that we have embarked upon, I led that effort to get MetroCog to actually hire a consultant to look at the entire picture across the entire metro. So in about 6 months, we should have some data on where the gaps are for housing. Right now, the median housing price is up to $300,000. So yeah, that's expensive. People are having more and more difficulty actually being able to purchase a home, and rent is also getting out of reach. So there's that missing middle part of the housing market that seems to exist. And once we have the data, we'll be able to move forward on some strategies. Talking a little bit more about childcare, we are bringing a group together to look at both county and city employees to take a look at that whole issue and hopefully address childcare.
Great. Mr. Borghi?
Okay, I want to be mayor because what we're forgetting about up here is our current taxpayers or our current residents of Fargo. We have all these new ideas and things that we're looking for going down the road. But one of the biggest issues that when I talk to especially first-time home buyers and young people who just recently graduated from college and they bought a home is how their tax structure works. They don't really understand when they buy a new piece of property, all the different charges that are on their monthly bill. For example, specials. I mean, specials are one thing, but if you buy a brand new home from a developer and you buy a lot, that lot should be ready to live on or build a house. In other words, city water, sewer connection, all that should be included. There should be nothing that you have to pay down the road after you get that first mortgage. All those things we're going to look at. It's going to take years to figure this out. But again, we cannot forget about the people currently living here and how that works for them. Thank you.
Thank you. Many of you have touched on this topic already. Tax incentives have been critical in the development and redevelopment of our community. What is your opinion on the use of tax incentives as a tool for growing and developing Fargo? Hakun Dabar.
Economic development is vitally important for the future of our community. Incentives can be a great tool of growth, but the most important thing is to remove the barriers of economic growth that exist today. Housing is less affordable than 4 years ago, which will make our workforce shortage decrease our economic growth. This is why I'll partner with the Chamber and the Home Builder Association, DCP, and others to ensure there is enough housing for everyone, and that housing is affordable for everyone. Our incomes are not keeping up with the expenses, which makes it harder for make life in Fargo, pushing people away and limiting our economic growth. I'll make sure we make Fargo more affordable for everyone by ending special assessment, by investing in housing, by creating closer partnership with Chamber, DCP, and the home builders and others to make life more affordable for everyone. Some few minutes left. Okay, I think incentives is really good, but the way that the current administration.
Thank you. Shannon Roars Jones.
Thank you. Tax incentives are a tool that we have in the city, and we need to make sure that we're always evaluating their use and how we are utilizing tax incentives to make sure that we're addressing the needs of the city at the time. It should be something that we're reviewing on a regular basis. Tax incentives right now have been used to great success in revitalizing downtown. I think we have opportunities to use them in revitalizing other parts of our community, including the South University corridor and our Main Avenue corridor. But we also can use them in more strategic ways to encourage developers to include childcare in their properties that they're developing, to include of course, I'll lose that for a second, but we need to make sure that we're continuing to evaluate them and making sure that they have the proper return on investment. If they're not ultimately addressing the needs for the city of Fargo or bringing more revenue into the city of Fargo than we are spending to get the projects built, then they shouldn't be used.
Thank you. Arlette Preston.
1 minute is really short. So tax incentives, Shannon is entirely right. They're a tool to be used, and I would say probably they need to be targeted better. Right now, we're using them for housing as well as job development. And the city has been working with Economic Development Corporation to strengthen the process a bit, tighten it up, so that when jobs are basically a goal of the incentive, we have a way to make sure that that in fact happens. And if it doesn't happen, the city has a way to pull the funding back. Incentives can be used in a good way to encourage infill development, which is good for the city. It increases our property tax base, and in the long run, keeps property taxes down for everybody. Yeah, I think that's it.
Thank you. Michael Borghi.
Okay, incentives. Like Mayor Mahoney here said in his opening preparation speech, that Fargo is the #1 growing area. Everybody wants to come here. Well, we shouldn't be giving incentives to people who have the money to build these buildings and to pay their taxes. We should be using those incentives for new, young ideas and people who want to take a chance on something and really grow the city in the right and correct direction. And just have to remember, when you do the tax incentives, it takes away the property tax for a period of time, which in turn, they're supposed to use that money for their development. But not everybody does that. And I'm not sure they're being checked on that. But going forward, I would do it a little bit different if I was mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mahoney?
Tax incentives can help your city. We have taxable incentives on less than 0.5% of our taxable value. And it takes $10 million worth of land and turns it up to $400 million worth of property. That property then pays taxes. During the time that's happening, people are still paying taxes on the property that they bought. So those incentives seem to work quite well. We recently just had a study on incentives done by the city. Came back that they felt they liked all the incentives and how we ran our incentives, and it came back having good things happen in our community. City of Fargo also gets incentivized to try to invest in low-income housing. In low-income housing, the city of Fargo has put $9 million in the last 5 years to low-income housing areas to help our low-income houses areas where people need help in getting into apartments, need help getting into lodging. We have a lot of people in the elderly population come here to live because they want to be with their grandchildren and their families, but yet they have a hard time finding a place. Home builders, you better start building because we need a lot of new homes. We need a lot of apartments. The vacancy rate in apartments right now is 4%, but that tells you need more apartments in our community. We need some growth. Thank you.
Great. As a reminder to everyone in the audience and those joining us online, you can submit your questions either by scanning the QR code that you see here. Otherwise, go to chamberquestions.com and submit your questions that way. We are getting some great questions coming in. So and it looks like, believe it or not, the 5 of you were ahead of schedule. So we'll keep on rolling and get to more questions. The city was allocated $41 million in the American Rescue Plan Act funding. How would you prioritize the allocation of the remaining of these funds prior to the deadline of 2026? Shannon Roars-Jones.
All right. I think one of the key things we need to make sure that we're using those resources on is rebuilding aging infrastructure. We have a lot of aging infrastructure in the city of Fargo, including our roads and our underground infrastructure. And if we don't use those funds, then ultimately that is going to hinder our ability to continue to expand outside of the area because we have to prioritize where we're placing our funds. We also, if we don't work on our infrastructure, we have a much more difficult time maintaining streets, removing snow, those sorts of things. And those things ultimately fall back to our citizens in the form of taxes and special assessments in the future. So that's a great first way to do it. We also need to make sure we're funding our law enforcement and first responders. Our law enforcement right now, I think, is understaffed, and we could certainly use more officers, more squad cars on the street to ensure that we have a safe community. And then beyond that, looking for other opportunities to reduce taxes citywide.
Great. Arlette Preston.
So I'm going to start sounding like a broken record here, but housing. I would prioritize the assistance to that missing middle that I'm assuming we'll probably find when we complete the study, the housing study. So I would like to, I would reserve some of those dollars to assist in building housing for that income level. We need to catch up on road reconstruction. The last few years, we've been falling behind a little bit, and if anybody has been driving the roads this year, there's a lot of potholes out there, and we need to catch up on that, so probably using some of the funding for that. The other one is childcare, assisting perhaps in the building and the establishment of childcare, as well as perhaps encouraging businesses to step up to the plate and subsidize childcare as well.
Great. Michael Borghi.
Okay, I would use those funds for a property tax refund for homeowners, businesses alike. We'd come up with a formula that best fits our current residents. Also, I would spend money on public safety. Public safety is the number one reason why I'm running for mayor. And I tell you, you can't buy enough police cars, honestly. And the police force they need some more. They need some more officers. But again, it's like anything else. It's hard to find that person. You got to have the right person in the upper management positions of the police force, and that's something I'll be talking about as the campaign goes forward. Thank you.
Mahoney?
Well, I hate to break the heart of the chamber, but we've already spent most of the 41 million, so it just passed the last meeting, so glad for the help. But goodly, you came about a lot of things we did. Body cameras are almost 2.4 million. We did body cameras. We've done a variety of things that are one-time costs that won't affect your budget, that are things that help our city. We invested in buildings that needed different things done. We're investing in fire station number 8. We're going to put that up. We have invested in the police department. We put $800,000 in the new command structure that they came up with. We also put money in Ascara. We've done things in rent assistance. We've done things in the health department as well. And so all the money was almost equally split with one-time needs and then some social issues as well. The engagement center where the old police department was done, because we had a lot of people who are homeless and had difficulties. We put a lot of money in food assistance to help people who are without food. And we continue to do different design and shelter apartments, different things in low-income housing as well. So the city has thoughtfully put the money together to do major impact in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. Hakun Dabar.
I think it's time to invest people. we need to invest on workforce, especially we need to invest childcare. We need to also invest our metro bus here to streamline, to be accessible for everyone. And that is the way also we can reduce the barriers that people are facing, transportation. Childcare is also another thing. So it's time to invest people. And so that will be my priority to use that money for.
Thank you.
Thank you. As a growing metropolitan area with an influx of diverse populations, if elected mayor, what would be your plan of action in regards to diversity, equity, and inclusion? Arlette Preston, would you please start us off?
Yeah, so the city really needs to provide some leadership here. We do have a Director of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion. Dr. Hogan joined us, or Hogan, I'm sorry. My maiden name is Hogan. Dr. Hogan joined us probably about a year ago, and he is in the process of starting an assessment. Once we have that assessment done, we'll have a better sense of some of the issues that we need to deal with. And in the meantime, the city really needs to look at its hiring and recruiting process to encourage the hiring, recruiting of people of color, as well as diverse income and all of the ways the community is diverse. In addition to that, our promotional practices probably need to be looked at as well, so that individuals that are hired have the opportunities that anyone else in our city structure would have.
Thank you, Arlette. Michael Borghi.
For Fargo, I look at that actual question as, I guess, I'm going to be honest with everybody. I don't see it as much as I think as the commission is looking at it. I mean, in my line of work, I don't see it. I mean, we treat everybody equally as they come in the door. They all apply for a job. If they have the skills, we hire them. We don't look the other way. We don't have any of those things. We don't discriminate. It's just something I've never really seen in my life, to be honest with you. And I know it happens. People, I'm sure it happens, and it happens in the city, and I wouldn't stand for it at all if I was the mayor. But going forward, I mean, we're spending a lot of money. This doctor, it's Hagen. I've never seen him. Honestly, I've never met him or anything. I don't know if anybody else has. We should probably look into that.
So, Michael, I think, can I?
Nope. Dr. Mahoney.
Wait.
Yeah.
Dr. Terry Hogan was hired to do what we would call a climate assessment. What he's going to help us figure out is, are we following the rules that we normally do to treat everybody equally, inclusion in the community? In the city of Fargo, we employ people. Who do we employ? How do we hire them? The best talent? Do we look at all different aspects of that job and what it needs to be? What Terry will bring back to us is an evaluation of what we're really doing. And to Michael's question, is there problems going on there where we are biased or prejudiced and are not hiring people we should be? But then his job is even bigger than that. And one of the things he'll talk about is love. And I love it when he starts talking about love. Because what he talks about is we need to learn how to love each other. We have to be a community that embraces each other. Because we not only want people to come here and work, but we want them to stay. And the only way we can do that is figure out this trouble that we have when people don't get along very well. We got a wake up last year in the riot. When we had the riot and we had what happened to our community, the most touching thing to me was the next morning the community came together and cleaned up the downtown. And they said, we want a community that gets along together. So I think Terry will give you the message, love. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahoney. Hakun?
I think it's very sad to see a mayoral candidate, talking shit about the only person of color working for the city. And if you look at the city, the mayor cabinet right now, it doesn't reflect on Fargo, the people of Fargo. We need to have more women there. We need to have more people of color there. And for city to grow, I think the mayor cabinet has to reflect the people of Fargo.
Thank you. Shannon Roars-Jones?
Thank you. It's a tough issue, and it's one of those issues that we always need to make sure that we're looking at this with compassion, empathy, and looking to understand the perspectives of others. Our citizens, our neighbors in Fargo, regardless of their background, are our greatest resource, are our greatest It's what makes Fargo amazing, an amazing place to live. And so we need to make sure that whether we see it or not, we're helping all of our citizens in the community feel like they belong here, feel like this is a place that they want to live in and work and raise their families. We have opportunities. There's always room for improvement. We can always look for ways to do things better and make sure that people are feeling like they belong here with people who've been here for years or people who are new to the community. And I think that's one of the greatest things that we have in the city is, we go out of our way to make sure that we're introducing ourselves to new people. We're making the efforts to introduce them to our friends. We need to continue to take that and expand it across the community.
Great. Switching gears a little bit, the diversion project set to be complete in 2027. Previously, the focus has been on acquiring funding. Now that we are entering into the execution and construction phase, what do you believe is the city's role in supporting the diversion? Let's begin with Michael Borghi.
Wow, that's another tough one for me. I'll tell you why it's a tough one for me, because when they had the flood in 97 and Grand Forks basically lost it all, and they put a lot of money into diverting their issues, and Fargo didn't do it. And I never really understood why they didn't do it, because if they would have done it back then, it would have been a lot less money than it is. But yet, I mean, they have to do it, so they are doing it. And what I think that's going to do is that's going to put all our focus onto other things with our cities, so we no longer have to worry about floods and where the river is and what the level is, and are we going to sandbag? Are we going to put 1 million sandbags? And then at the end of the day, we end up throwing those sandbags away anyways. It's just effort that we don't need to do. We can put that effort into something else. That's how I'm answering that.
Tim Mahoney.
Well, Mike, we don't throw them all away because Valley City took 29,000 when last year. So
Okay, well, good.
when you go back to Valley City, you see how much a community is torn apart by a flood. We don't need a flood in Fargo anymore. And Shannon, I'll correct you, by 26, the diversion will be done, and it's paid for. Legislative body helped us out with the bond. We got federal money, we got local money, everything's coming together, so we could adequately fight a flood in 27. That gives you another challenge. Now you have limited property in which the community of Fargo will grow. So the challenges we're going to have in the diversion time is to get it done, keep people on task, make sure they come in with the bids they have, and make sure that we continue to do well. The surprising thing is City of Fargo has responded by its sales tax that is improved, so we're always worried about it sometime had an assessment. Does not look like that'll ever happen because the community continues to handle the money that it has to pay for that project. But once you get the diversion done, watch out. What are we going to do as a community? Because then you're defined. You only have a definite kind of land that you can take part of and grow. And what kind of community do you want there? What do you want in that area? And that's the challenge we're going to have going forward. Thank you.
Oh, sorry. Hakun Dabar.
Okay. The floods of 1997 and 2009 were devastating for our community. I visited with the regional leaders, and I've learned that our mayor here is very difficult to work with. You know, Jesus said, love your neighbor and love your God. Mr. Mayor, we need to love our neighbors. We need to be a team player. I'll be a team player for the good of all our communities, to build the diversion on time and to keep our community safe.
Great. Shannon Rose-Jones.
So we have some great opportunities with the diversion coming in. Obviously, it provides a great amount of economic security for our community, but it's also creating challenges for our current business owners, our workforce. It's exacerbating our workforce challenges. So we need to make sure that we are working with the diversion developers, the contractors, because we have issues where they are paying more money than a lot of our local businesses can, and taking workforce from our existing region, Fargo, Moorhead, West Fargo employers. So we need to make sure that we're working to alleviate those problems. Additionally, we need to make sure that people don't lose sight of the diversion and its impact in the future. Once we go a period of time without having floods, people are going to forget about how bad it was when it was bad. So we need to make sure that we take our diversion and turn it into an amenity for our community by turning it into a recreation area, looking for opportunities to make it continue to be valuable in the future.
Great. Arlette Preston.
So one of the things that MetroCog has studied and has provided some preliminary kind of designs for is a parkway using the diversion ditch basically as a large linear park. The price tag with that was a bit too high, so it has been probably put a little bit on the back shelf, but I would hope that in the long run, we can figure out how to scale that back a little bit and perhaps find funding for it. It would actually be a wonderful space for recreational purposes and would probably be a regional draw. That would be the biggest thing, I think.
Thank you. Public safety around the nation is a topic of concern. As Shannon and I are watching the questions be submitted from our audience, a lot of them revolve around the rate of homelessness and alcohol issues in our own community. How, if elected mayor, would you ensure that Fargo, as it grows, is a safe and secure place to live? Dr. Mahoney, would you please start us off?
So in the downtown area, we've had growth and a lot of exciting things happen, but we've also had more homeless people and people in the community. Sometimes makes the residents not feel safe. The chief has come up with a plan in which we're going to do some different things in the downtown, hopefully make it a better place for us to be and live. I always felt that when downtown became livable, walkable, that'd be the time in which you have to pay close attention to what your community becomes. A police station is going to go into Mercantile Building. We'll have police downtown patrolling and being out and about. We've had help with our engagement center. We have Mobile One. So what Mobile One is we have people who know the people that are homeless and might need some help, go out and pick them up and take them where they need to be. So when they're lost or out about doing things that they shouldn't be doing, rather than have a policeman tied up picking those people up, our police force will come in and help. The chief of police did a change of command structure and is changing things as a change agent. And what we're hoping to do is have better policing downtown, better policing throughout the city. And you will see that with the plans that come out through the summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mahoney. Hakun Dabar.
The people of Fargo are very kind and very warm. This is why Fargo is a very safe community. However, we need to make sure we are treating all of our city staff fairly and with respect to ensure that they are happy and able to carry out their duties. We have seen the turnover at the city in the police department. Another department is very high, which is a major problem. Creating a respectful and safe environment for the city staff is one of the most important things as mayor can do. In order to help take the strain of our public safety professionals, we'll implement policies like Housing First and create a workforce department at the city to connect workers to jobs and jobs to workers. When people are housed and they have jobs, they will naturally have fewer interaction with the public safety professionals. It makes them happier, healthier, and safer, and it reduces the unfair strain we put on public safety professionals.
Thank you. Shannon Rose-Jones.
Perfect, thank you. First, we need to make sure that we are providing the tools that our public safety, our law enforcement officials need so that they are able to do their jobs, that they feel valued, and they are safe. But beyond that, we need to make sure that we're not leaving our other neighbors behind. We have people in our community who have underlying issues with substance use or mental health, and we need to make sure that we are addressing the root cause of those problems, because if we can meet people where they're at, where they're struggling, whether it's with substances, whether it's with mental health, or a combination of the two, and solve those problems on the front end, that we can take that burden away from our law enforcement, our first responders. One of the tools that was mentioned is the mobile outreach program. The mobile outreach program is a great resource that I would like to expand upon, where we can go and create a group that would intercede with people who are struggling with homelessness, with mental health, with substance abuse issues, and take that burden so that law enforcement doesn't have to respond to as many calls.
Thank you. Arlette Preston.
Mental health and drug addiction issues are certainly a foundational issue for this and has already been referred to the Mobile One program. And the Engagement Center they were both established very specifically to deal with that issue. I think in the long run, it would be really helpful to have mental health professionals, the health department, and law enforcement all working together to try to figure out how to address this issue. Right now, there are no mental health professionals that are hired and work within law enforcement. I would like to see that happen. The health department has some resources that could be brought to the table as well. And I think probably breaking down some silos between those two departments to develop some strategies would be the way I would approach it.
Thank you. Michael Borgi.
Yeah, I'd like to talk a little bit here about public safety. I don't think anybody in Fargo thinks that Minneapolis and St. Paul is doing very well with their police department or their public safety. Well, that's where Fargo is headed. With a community organization, they hired a police chief that doesn't police. Policing means enforcing the laws on the books. Regardless of how small they are, they need to be enforced. If all you do is community organizing, you're going to end up like Minneapolis, a beautiful town it is. It had everything going for it. Then all of a sudden, they lost the ball. They forgot where it was, and look where they were. This is where Fargo is headed. I want to put us back on track. That's why I'm running. Thank you.
Great. A question here. Fargo is surrounded by numerous smaller towns: Moorhead, Dilworth, West Fargo, Horace, and Harwood. As an observer, I have noticed these surrounding towns become increasingly aggressive and assertive in attracting businesses and residents. My feeling is that Fargo may be getting a little complacent and even resting on its laurels. What will you do as the mayor to make sure we are not becoming complacent in business and resident attraction? Let's start with Hakun.
I think what I would say is if Moorhead grows, it's also Fargo. I think we need to have a partnership and collaborate on everything as a city. We need to partner with Moorhead. We need to partner with Dilworth. We need to partner with West Fargo, because Moorhead growth is also Fargo growth. Dilworth growth is Fargo growth. West Fargo growth is Fargo growth. If they're not doing well, and then we need to support one another. You have seen the flood, how we help one another. And the workforce side, how many people from Moorhead working from Fargo side, reducing the workforce shortage we have in our community. Things, collaboration and partnership is the key to work together.
Shannon Rose-Jones.
Thank you. This is not a zero-sum game. We are partners with all of our neighboring communities, and it's not, if we work to try and attract citizens to live in only Fargo, if we try and attract businesses to work in or to establish in only Fargo, it's not benefiting the region. We need to make sure that we're partnering with our neighboring communities and looking for ways that we can have a very symbiotic relationship. We can be working with businesses. We've already acknowledged that with the diversion, we're going to have more limited land available to us. And so if we want to bring a business to town that's going to have a large footprint, an Amazon or an agricultural facility, we need to make sure that we're working with our neighboring communities to bring that. Having that here is still a benefit to Fargo. It'll bring more people, more jobs, more money into our local economy. And so rather than worrying about competing with our neighboring communities, we should be looking for opportunities to partner.
Great. Arlette Preston.
So I agree fully. We need to be partnering with our neighboring communities. The only concern that I would have in the long run is if the employment centers in Fargo and perhaps Moorhead, that we're going to start having commuter problems like some of the larger cities have. So we need to be very strategic about how we place employment centers and housing around that. I would like to take some time, however, to go back to the issue of the police chief, because I really believe that's an issue that's been top of mind for a lot of people. This police chief was brought on from an outside community. He is bringing changes, and frankly, changes that are probably well needed. And he has implemented a lot of improvements, which has made a big difference. However, there are always people that struggle with change, and that has created some issues within the department, and it is being addressed. So I just wanted to make that point.
Michael Borgi.
Yeah, to comment on my fellow candidate here. I'm working in business. I'm out there every day. I see lots of different things that are not being addressed at all. You know, we're up here talking about what we want to do about homeless people, or what we want to do about people who are underserved, who are not working, or people who are drinking too much, all these things. Just remember, petty crime turns into big crime, okay? Big crime brings in gangs, and gangs bring in other problems. This is happening in our community, and people are unaware of it because we're worried about. I'm just telling you, it's the wrong thing. We do not want to go down that road. We need to get back on track, and it starts with the police department, to be honest with you, and public safety.
Tim Mahoney.
When COVID hit in 2018, my finance director thought it'd take 5 years for us to recover. It took 6 months. In 2020, our permits were 720 million. In 2021, 760 million. The city of Fargo leads because we have things going on in the city of Fargo. We love the other communities to do well because that means we all do well. But I say that they mostly are bedroom communities because 60 to 70% of the community of Moorhead comes over and works in Fargo. And Horace comes up and works with us. Castleton comes and works with us. And if you have economic growth, you have energy within the city. What the city of Fargo has, it has an energy where it's economically viable. We now have a branching out of all the different economics. We're not just agriculture anymore. One of the top medical centers in the nation is in this place. We have a university system. We have manufacturing going on, and we have education going on. We have a good mix of that happening. And I remember in the 90s, what happened is you were so dependent on agriculture that your economy floated downward if things didn't do well. We have an economy with such good business people, we continue to thrive, and we will always be the leader.
I'd like to respond to Michael a little bit. I think Michael, and he wants to arrest everybody of Fargo. Everybody to go to jail, no enough workforce. If you look at what he's talking about, it's like
We're going to move on. Thank you, Hakoon. The next question has been submitted by our audience. How can the city of Fargo address the mental health needs of our community? Shannon Rhodes-Jones, would you please start us off?
The city of Fargo there's always a challenge with having the city try to take on some of these. I think a lot of what our opportunities are making sure that we're partnering with the other assets that exist across the state. As the state legislature in the last couple of sessions, we have worked to increase funding for our regional social service centers. And I think there's a lot of opportunities that for combining of services or sharing of services now with our collaboration between the Department of Health and the Department of Human Services in the state of North Dakota. Rather than trying to take on all of that burden and bear the cost as the city, I think we need to make sure that we're looking to partner with all of our partners across the state, the Department of Health, the Department of Human Services, our regional human service centers, and also the private businesses that are providing these services, making sure that we understand all of the resources that are out there and looking for opportunities to create private-public partnerships.
Thank you. Arlette Preston.
So mental health issues definitely are touching so much of this community, and it's a big concern for sure. The problems are not enough providers and not enough funding, and those really come through the state, and the state legislature needs to provide and appropriate that funding. So working with our legislators and with the governor to try to increase that funding and get more providers is really, in my mind, the answer.
Thank you, Arlette. Michael Borghi.
Well, I'm one of those people that think that mental health, when it comes to the homeless and the underserved, the state has to play a pretty big role in that. And Fargo, as a community, we'll do our part to help mitigate that issue. But again, that's a state issue, and the state needs to put a little bit more money into it, and a little more effort into helping that out. I mean, I have my theory why things are the way they are, but I'll get into that in my closing statement. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mahoney?
Mental health is one of the biggest challenges we have with the city right now. Don't have enough providers. We have a lagging of funding from the state. The state has decided that most mental health should happen in the community. Chris Jones, Director of Human Services, State of North Dakota, we're working with him to see how we can make Southeast Human Services better. When people have crisis, sometimes it'll take 4 to 5 hours for somebody to get to that crisis. And oftentimes we have crisis that is a breakdown that hold up our police, hold up our people taking care of those people. We need better answers for this area and this population. More providers, maybe telehealth, maybe trying different innovative ideas of how to meet the people where they're at. Our legislative team oftentimes comes to our area and they try to help us out in getting many things done. But most of the funding now is on the hands of the state, and the state has to figure out how we're going to pay for this and take care of these people. We as a city will continue to collaborate and see how we can work together to solve this difficult problem. It's not solvable with one easy area. It takes multiple people, multiple partners to figure it out and give good service to our people.
Thank you. Hakun Dabar.
The mental health issue is a major problem in our community. I've seen it, and especially, give an example about the new American population. Coming to this weather itself is a mental health issue. And I think as a city, we need to think about investing in the mental health, not only living on the state, but also as a mayor, when I get elected, I'll be working with our state representative here, make sure that we get more money to our city to improve the lives of many that's been affected. Thank you.
All right, we're gonna mix it up a little bit and do a little bit of a different format now called rapid fire. So we've got some quick questions that warrant quick answers. 1 or 2 words would be most ideal as we go through this. Cindy and I will switch back and forth. We have about 20 minutes left, so still, if you've got more questions, please submit those. But I will kick it off. You clearly have figured out the order, so maybe we could do it without us referencing your name each one, if we can give it a try. So we're going to start this with, I think Shannon Rose-Jones is up if I have the countdown. So Convention Center, Performing Arts Center, neither or both?
Both.
Both.
Neither.
Both.
Neither.
Okay.
On a scale of 1 to 5 being extremely important, how important is the diversion to the city's growth? Arlette?
I'm struggling with one word answer. It's a nuanced answer, but I would say 5.
I'll say 5.
You're saying 5 is the highest?
Yes.
Yeah.
5 plus.
5.
5.
All right. 1 or 2 words, the top attribute of our next mayor. Michael?
Honest, straightforward.
Okay.
There's multiple words for me, but sustainable future.
Can you repeat what did you say? Sorry.
In 1 or 2 words, the top attribute of the attributes of the next mayor.
Accountable.
Good.
I think energetic, innovative.
Visionary communicator.
Wonderful. What is your favorite thing to do downtown? Mayor Mahoney?
Red River Market.
I live downtown, always walk on the beautiful restaurants.
Shannon?
Eat.
Arlette?
Talking with all the neighbors on the sidewalk.
Eat and drink.
We're always leaving that out, Michael. Thank you. Thoughtful drinking. Huh?
On a scale of 1 to 5, 5 being extremely important, how important is regional branding to the community's success? Where are we at? Mahoney?
Hakun.
Hakun. Hakun, you get to start us off. 1 to 5, how important is the regional brand of our community to our
5.
success?
5.
4.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was waiting for someone else. Definitely 5.
I would go 4. Yeah.
I know the chamber loves this. It's 5. You want us to have a regional brand that everybody comes and takes part of. Thank you.
This may be difficult to keep the answers short, but what is the number one issue facing our community? Shannon?
One word?
One or two words.
One or two words? Inflation and safety.
Arlette?
Attainable housing.
Michael?
Just safety.
Inflation and growth.
Workforce.
All right, those are fast. See how fast those were. We have a couple more questions that have come in. And here's the one from the audience saying, can each of you please describe how we are going to use the Fresh Start Act in the city? So I have to, who do
Can
we
you
start with?
define what the Fresh Start Act is?
I don't know who this came from. So
Okay, the Fresh Start Act is taking the people who have non-violent crimes in our community and asking the court to expunge them. So that opens up jobs and housing and more opportunities for those people so they can start living.
Okay, so
So how did they get to that point? Did they commit a crime? Is that what you're saying? No, they
Yep.
committed a nonviolent crime, and the Fresh Start Act would to give them a step up, so to speak, going forward to change their life. Correct? Okay, I understand the question.
Shannon, can you repeat the question?
maybe. From my understanding, it's if there is someone that has committed a nonviolent crime, and then the city has the ability to, you have to clarify the expungements part of it.
They can appeal the court to expunge that from their record so they can have a clean start. So that
Yeah. No. Yeah, I got that.
I'm happy to start this one if you want.
Okay.
So this is actually something that I've worked on in the state legislature. I had a bill related to criminal record sealing, which would allow people who have passed nonviolent criminal records and have a period of years without new criminal charges could have creates a process for sealing their criminal records. There's also a federal effort for this. That being said, it's not really a city program to implement. I think we always should be looking for opportunities to allow people who have reformed their lives to be successful, creating a process to seal their criminal records when they have a period of 3 to 5 years without new crimes allows them access to more housing, more jobs, things of that nature, which ultimately reduces the burdens on society because these people are able to be more self-sufficient. But to say, how is the city going to address this? I think really just creating an environment where people have greater opportunity to be successful.
And we may just open it up to any additional comments specific to this from any of you that want to comment on it.
Well, I think with workforce issues, we have to look at a variety of ways to get people back in the workforce, and there's a variety of rules that come about that help us out. So you always have to look at areas in which some people could be very well part of the workforce. What can we do to make it better? So but again, it's not city's function. This is a court function you're talking about.
I'm for anybody getting a second chance as long as it's not a huge violent crime. Like I say, the laws that are on the books, we have to enforce them. I don't want to lock everybody up, but in the same token, if you don't bring that up, these are just perpetually going to keep going on and on and on. In the situation that you said about the giving somebody a second chance and helping them and expunging their record, and that generally happens to people who are under the age of 18. And I'd be for it. I'd be all for it if it's going to turn that person around. That's the whole idea of it. It's rehabilitation. I totally believe in it. The city, I don't think they have enough things on their plate to be getting involved in that. That's all I got to say.
Haku and Jabbar?
People need help. If you look at my platform, it's jobs for the jobless, homes for the homeless, and hope for the hopeless. So it's all about housing first policy, giving chance to, people who want to start again their life and helping them get job and giving them case management and become successful to our community.
If I could just say something here, giving people second chances, it's wonderful. I'm all for that. And I know that if this could free up stable housing for individuals coming out of the system, I don't know enough about this bill, but I will certainly find out more about it. But if it can provide for stable shelter, that's the first step for trying to get back to some kind of normal life.
Great. All right. Because we are so efficient, we're going to give you back a little bit more time. So now for closing statements, we would love you to have 2 minutes instead of 1 minute. So you get to be a little bit more wordy in your closing statements. So let's start with, let's see, I believe we were up to Hakun Dabar.
Thank you again to the Chamber and DCP for hosting this event. I want to remind everyone, my name is Hakun Dabar, and I'm running for mayor. Career politicians like the current mayor have left us with unsolved problems and difficult burdens to bear. To all hardworking people in Fargo, I want you to know that I've heard you, and my administration will work to make your life easier. We know that it has been a struggle to keep up with the rising expenses. We know that it has been difficult to find jobs and find employees. And we know that life is simply harder now than it was 4 years ago. Mr. Mahoney, we know that it's true, and the evidence is right here in the room. You have not worked well with your commission to improve lives, and that's why one of your fellow commissioners is here challenging you. You have not worked well with our state partners, and this is why one of our state representatives is here challenging you. And you have not worked well with the community and businesses to solve problems, and that's why I'm here challenging you. It's time for new leadership in Fargo. Leadership that cares about the lives of Fargoans. Leadership that will be stronger partner with the community, with the chamber, the DCP, and our regional partners on issues like workforce, flood protection, housing, and economic growth. Again, to the hardworking people of Fargo, I've heard you. Unlike the career politicians who make a lot of empty promises, I solve problems. We will end special assessment. We'll implement a housing first policy, and we'll solve workforce shortage by creating workforce department. I humbly ask you for your vote on June 14. Let's create a brighter future for Fargo together. Thank you.
Shannon Rose-Jones.
Well, first, thank you to Shannon and the chambers and all of the chamber staff. Thank you to Cindy and the Downtown Community Partnership for all of your work in coordinating this event. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to each of you. I am excited for the opportunity to bring a fresh perspective to the city of Fargo. I am looking forward to working with our business community, with our citizens, for looking for creative solutions to the problems without raising taxes across the city. We need to make sure that we are funding our law enforcement, our first responders, providing them the resources that they need to be successful and feel fulfilled in the jobs that they're doing. They're one of the most important resources that we have in our community, and safety is vital to attracting workforce to Fargo, attracting people who want to live and build their lives here. Burdening our taxpayers with high property taxes and special assessments is unsustainable. We need to make sure that we're always looking for new solutions. My first priority is going to be looking for opportunities to increase our efficiencies in the city of Fargo, working with our community partners to look for new ways of making sure that we are always improving, always looking for opportunities to make Fargo the best place to live, work, and raise a family. I hope that you will vote for me on June 14th. My name is Shannon Rose-Jones, and for more information, you can search on my website, shannonrosejones.com.
Arlette Preston.
Thank you to the audience that's listening in, and thank you to the DCP and the Chamber for hosting. I've lived in this community for 45 years, and it's been good to my family. I'm in this race to work for the hardworking residents of Fargo so that everyone who chooses to live here can prosper. I'm in this race because too many people are getting locked out of homeownership and rent is getting out of reach. With the housing study I initiated, we have started on the path to making sure housing is attainable at all income levels. I've been working and will continue to work on ensuring childcare is accessible and affordable. Being a previous small business owner, I understand the importance of fostering startups and small businesses in our community. Finally, in order to fill the job vacancies, our community needs to be a welcoming community to all who choose to live here. City Hall has to work with all of our community partners and with our neighbors to achieve this. I am prepared to do that. I'm in this race because we need a change and we need visionary city leadership who can work with our dedicated staff and the community to make sure we all prosper. I have the experience and the skills to serve as mayor. I have the energy, focus, and passion to get the job done. Thank you for your time. I ask for your support in the upcoming election. Vote Arlette Preston for mayor for Fargo, and you can check out my website at arletteforfargo.com, or .org, sorry.
Michael Borgi.
Yeah.
Hi. I'm obviously running for mayor. Getting back on track with Borgie means getting back to the simple things in life. I'm a simple man. Like my father always said, anybody who gets up in the morning, stands up straight, and goes to work, things will work out that day. Things will be fine. Things will be okay. There's lots of problems in life. We all have them. And Fargo has far many problems as well. But we can work on these together and get these things accomplished, and we'll figure it out. And again, back on track means to go out and do the right thing. A good mayor or leader must listen to people, must listen attentively to their concerns. Over the last 6 years, I've been doing a lot of listening to my neighbors, my coworkers, my bankers, my creditors. I've noticed a lot of common themes that they all seem to talk about, which leads me back to why I'm running for mayor. What a good listener can do is pick up on these things, and that people really don't want to tell everybody about, but you hear it, you observe it, so you know what's really going on. Again, another thing that a good manager does is puts their employees in a position so they don't fail. Everybody wants to be successful. I'm that person. I will put people in the right positions, hire the right people, and manage the right people. Again, if you want to find out anything more about me, it's voteborgie, BORGIE.com. Again, voteborgie.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Tim Mahoney.
When I first ran for this office, the commissioner, my theme was a leader who listens. I have tried to do that my whole career in politics and listen to people closely. I would challenge anybody in this job. It's a 24/7 job. My heart is in the city of Fargo. Every day I get up, I try to figure out different ways we can make our community better. I cry when we have things happen that make me unhappy, a riot in our community we never wanted. I work hard to get things done. Took a challenge of a diversion, moved the timetable from 18 years to 6 years. Worked with people. I've worked with people on the federal level, state level, and the local level, and we have good things that happen in our community. I think the balance of my work, you have seen a very successful community. We have a 20% growth in our population in 10 years. We have grown, we've improved, we've gotten better. If any of you don't think it's better now than it was 8 years ago, then you're mistaken. This community has #1 job market. We have the #1 place for young people to come. The one thing I'm working on is we're only #3 in happy. We got to work on happy now, so would request more smiles in the audience at times. But truly, we're the #1 health area. We have so many different accolades that our city gets, and I don't go out and request those. Those happen. And those happen because we've got great people and great residents, and we can continue to do that. So I love it when people come together and we try to find solutions. The Chamber recently had a project in which we're looking at how to do things better in this community. And we looked at Sioux Falls, tried to see what Sioux Falls does. And you know what we learned from that? We got to get more people involved. So whether you want the performing arts or if you want the Fargo Dome to be better, get involved. You better get involved and try to help us out. If you want us to improve on things, let's work together. What we have found is wages are going up. We all know wages are going up. I have to compete with that at City Hall. What's happened is we have more housing, more apartments, more growth, and we continue to show great progress. I think it's a great city. Please reelect me mayor.
Thank you. Thank you again to all of you who have joined us this evening, and thank you to the candidates for their participation in tonight's forum. We know that 1 minute isn't a very long time to formulate a response, so after this event, we will be sending out written questions to the candidates for their responses, as well as any questions that were submitted by the audience that may touch on topics we weren't able to address this evening. For those will be able to be found on the Chamber's website at fmwfchamber.com.
Additionally, please visit votefmwf.org. This is a nonpartisan election resource designed recently by one of our Chamber Leadership Program cohorts. It's to empower local community members with current information on local candidates. So we'll work also with votefmwf.org to put all of these questions out in front of them as well. As we close out the event, I would like to remind everyone to join us right here again Wednesday, May 4th for the Fargo Commission Candidate Forum. The event will take place at 4 o'clock here in the City of Fargo's Commission Chambers, and we'll have just a few more seats filled up here as we have quite a few candidates running for those seats as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you all.